Hello students, this week in social problems class we are going to focus on social stratification. So we're in chapter 6 and we're going to look at the differences in lifestyle between wealth and poverty. We're going to look at some aspects of social structure that create the gaps between wealth and poverty, or at least are proposed to create those gaps. And so I wanted to give a little bit of a review on social stratification, one of the concepts from sociology class, that this is a deeper dive. In this class, we do a little bit of a deeper dive into it to look at some solutions for social stratification. And so first of all, it's important to note that in every society, everywhere throughout history, social stratification has always been part of the macro scale pattern in social structure that can be observed. So whether you are talking about a very simplistic foraging society or horticultural society that you can study in anthropology class or in isolated regions around the world, still today, not just historical, you still see social stratification. It doesn't necessarily have to relate directly to wealth versus poverty, like we're going to focus on a lot in this chapter, but sometimes our position within the larger social structure is based on what is ascribed to us through a social definition that is attributed to us based on what we occupy in society at birth. Fancy sentence structure to talk about how males versus females, for instance, those two ascribed statuses, have very different social positions from one society to the next around the world. When we get to the education chapter, for instance, social stratification can be based on the achieved status of your education level, but your ascribed status of male versus female can create a situation where you are allowed or not allowed to participate in formal education within your society. A lot of these cultures still exist today that look at the ascribed status of female as the childbearing, child-rearing, caregiving function within a family, like we learned last week in our lessons. And because of that, education is withheld from many girls in societies all throughout Africa, through the Middle East, through Southeast Asia, lots of places, Central America even, which has a predominantly Western view of culture for the most part. So your achieved status is what you can gain in your lifetime through your effort. You can achieve a goal. That's where we get achieved status. So through some sort of effort, you have arrived at this particular position in society, but your ascribed status can definitely create a situation in which you are prevented from achieving certain things because the social structure at the macro scale does not allow people in your position to gain other positions based on ascription of that status. In Hindu societies, for instance, the Hindi religion has the traditional belief in different castes, and membership in different castes is given at birth. So that would be an ascribed status. And if I'm not mistaken, there are 4 castes and then an untouchable group. You can look this up if you would like to see how that social status or social stratification is organized in the religious faith of Hinduism, which affects social structure. And so if you are in a society that uses that religious pattern as the dominant place where norms and cultural customs derive from, then you're going to be subjected to, you're going to be I can't say the word. What am I trying to say? You're going to be submitted to that position in society for the rest of your life. And so social stratification is the inequality that exists at the macro scale. And in our Western point of view, the specific view in the United States, additionally, is that we are supposed to be able to achieve anything we set our mind to. However, from a sociological perspective, when we zoom out, we have to acknowledge and recognize that the statuses that we are born with often translate into the statuses that we keep, or the positions that we keep throughout our lives. So, are we going to be able to attain at that education level? Well, perhaps it has to do with the amount of economic resources that we have, that we're born into. So, if you look at just intro to sociology textbooks and you look at a list of ascribed statuses compared to achieved statuses, social class is listed as an ascribed status because we inherit the position of our parents at birth, the economic level of our parents at birth, the education level of our parents at birth. And so some sociologists criticize social structure as reproducing the current pattern of inequality just generation after generation, because that ascribed status can follow us into adulthood and become, through our socialization process, it becomes the lifestyle to which we are accustomed, and rarely do we go outside our comfort zone. You might have noticed this about yourself or others. Rarely do we go outside our comfort zone and become a nonconformist to our society. And so we have to look at social stratification with a very critical eye. Functionalists would say that social stratification is a necessary part of society because not all work is valued equally within that social system, whether it's domestic work or public work, and then we can divide public work into different types of things that are seen as vital or not so vital, difficult or not so difficult, and therefore social stratification is supposed to be an economic reality for us. It's supposed to be a gender reality for us or a religious reality for us from a functionalist point of view. A functionalist would also say, if you cite a social problem with this, then let's change it, but let's change it slowly, incrementally, so that there's not social turmoil, upheaval, and disorganization that we have to deal with to get rid of the objectionable part of social inequality. Marxist sociologists will look at social inequality and say, no, we do not like this idea that religion, like the Hindu religion, props up the idea that people are and should be and must stay unequal to each other in a society. We don't like the economic system of capitalism that encourages people to make a profit and reinvest and keep on making a profit. So we don't like that. We need to get rid of that. We need to stamp out inequality at all costs. Lots of different inequalities, from that gender gap that we mentioned in this video to the religious foundations of inequality. All of those things need to be stamped out. If you really reduce Marxism to that basic level, we look at that as a perceived solution to the social problem of inequality. So please use this critical eye this week while you are reading the portion of the chapter in your reading assignment and watching the other videos that I've made or curated for you. And please text me with questions. I look forward to hearing from you and reading your reaction papers.